The scene opens in a suburban California home. Mark, a hard-working tech engineer, comes home earlier than usual, holding a bouquet of roses and a box of chocolates. He smiles, eager to surprise his wife Lisa for their anniversary.
Can't wait to see the look on her face. She'll never see this coming.
As he enters the living room, he hears hushed giggles coming from the kitchen. His smile fades.
What the?
Mark tiptoes closer and peeks around the corner. Lisa is on the phone, twirling her hair, laughing flirtatiously.
Oh, Jeff, you're so funny. Mark has no idea. Same time tomorrow?
Mark clenches the roses, his face a mix of heartbreak and disbelief. Instead of confronting her, Mark devises a plan. The next day, he pretends to leave for work, but parks down the street, watching the house. Soon enough, a flashy red convertible pulls up, and Jeff, a smooth-talking gym trainer, hops out. Mark smirks and calls his best friend, Sarah, who happens to be a private investigator.
Time to catch a cheater in action.
Sarah sets up hidden cameras and records everything. Lisa and Jeff laughing, holding hands, and eating takeout in the living room. That night, Mark surprises Lisa with a romantic dinner. As they sit down, he dims the lights and starts a slideshow.
What's this, honey?
The projector displays photos and videos of Lisa and Jeff. Lisa's jaw drops.
Caught in 4K, Lisa.
Lisa stammers, trying to explain. But Mark stands up, grabs his coat, and opens the door. Sarah walks in, holding a manila folder.
Here's your divorce papers, sweetheart. You've been served.
Jeff arrives at the house, oblivious to the drama, only to find Lisa's belongings being tossed into his car by Mark.
Good luck, buddy. She's all yours.
Mark moves on, finding love with Sarah, while Lisa and Jeff's relationship falls apart under the weight of their own lies.
Karma's one heck of a thing, isn't it?
It was a typical Friday night, and Chloe had just finished a super important phone call with her best friend, Mia. It had been an exhausting day of sneaking out, texting, and avoiding her mom's constant nagging about homework.
Chloe, what's going on with your grades? You're failing history. This is the third time this semester. Mom, relax. It's just one class. Who even uses history after high school anyway? Don't take that attitude with me, young lady. You need to start taking responsibility.
You're grounded. No more phone, no more going out with your friends. I've had enough of this nonsense.
What? Grounded? Are you kidding me? I didn't do anything that bad. You guys are overreacting. Clearly you don't take anything seriously, Chloe. Maybe you need to understand what it feels like when you can't just do whatever you want. Fine, I'll just leave then. If you want to kick me out, then go ahead. I'll find somewhere else to stay. Chloe, wait, we didn't mean it.
But Chloe was already outside, slamming the door behind her. She marched down the street with purpose, texting Mia.
I'm free. Parents are so out of touch. I'm going to stay at your place for the night.
Mia's reply came fast. Wait, Chloe, you're serious? You actually got kicked out?
Yeah, totally. They're being dramatic.
She didn't have a plan, but she figured she could crash at Mia's house. The only problem? Mia's parents were out of town, and her place was already packed with people. After a few hours of wandering around and calling everyone she knew, Chloe started to feel the weight of her decision. She checked the time, midnight. Her stomach growled. Her mom's lasagna had always been her favorite, and she was starving.
Can I come home? I'm hungry. You're lucky I'm not locking the door on you. Come in, but no more attitude.
Chloe returned home, and as she entered the kitchen, she found her parents sitting at the table, each with a large slice of lasagna in front of them.
I thought you kicked me out.
We did, but you know we're not monsters. We just wanted you to learn that your actions have consequences. We're signing you up for a history tutor.
What? No, seriously? It's time to take things seriously, Chloe. But we'll help you, together. Well, I guess being kicked out wasn't so bad after all.
If you like this video, then do subscribe to this channel.
The sun rose over a small suburban town as 12-year-old Max looked out the window of the social worker's car. His suitcase, frayed and weathered, sat by his side, holding all his worldly possessions. Max had been in foster care for years, shuffled between families who either didn't care or couldn't manage him. He was cautious, yet hopeful, as they approached the Peterson house, a 2-story home with a pristine lawn and flower beds that looked straight out of a magazine. Inside the house, however, the reality was less picturesque. The Petersons, Martha and Greg, had a reputation among social workers as a trial family, often taking in foster kids but rarely keeping them long. Martha greeted Max with a smile that didn't reach her eyes.
Oh, hello, Max. You must be exhausted.
Greg, sitting on the couch with a newspaper, barely looked up.
Rules are simple. Do what you're told and don't touch anything.
Max nodded, clutching his suitcase tightly. Their biological children, Emma and Lucas, weren't much better. They stared at Max like he was an alien who had just landed in their living room. Emma rolled her eyes dramatically.
Great, another stray. Hope you like being invisible.
Max's room was a small, cramped space in the attic. It had a single bed, a desk with one leg shorter than the others, and a small window that barely let in any light. But Max didn't complain. He'd learned long ago that complaining only made things worse. As the days passed, it became clear that Max was little more than an afterthought to the Petersons. He was given chores that no one else wanted to do, like cleaning out the gutters or scrubbing the bathroom floor. Mealtimes were even worse. He was often given leftovers after the family had eaten, but Max found solace in his sketchbook. He loved to draw and would spend hours sketching worlds far more colorful and kind than the one he lived in. One day, while cleaning the living room, Max accidentally knocked over one of Martha's prized vases. It didn't break, but Martha acted as though he'd smashed a family heirloom.
Do you know how expensive that is? You're lucky we even let you stay here.
Emma and Lucas watched from the staircase, snickering. But Max just stared at the floor, swallowing the lump in his throat. Max's life at the Petersons continued to be bleak until he met Mrs. Green, the elderly woman who lived next door. Mrs. Green had a garden full of roses, daisies, and sunflowers, and Max often watched her from his attic window. One afternoon, while taking out the trash, Max saw Mrs. Green struggling to carry a bag of fertilizer.
Why, thank you, young man. You're a lifesaver.
From that day on, Max started helping Mrs. Green with her garden. In return, she would invite him in for cookies and lemonade, and they'd talk for hours. Mrs. Green was the first person in a long time who treated Max with kindness. Meanwhile, back at the Petersons, tension was brewing. Emma and Lucas decided to play a cruel prank on Max. They hid his sketchbook and claimed they hadn't seen it. Max searched everywhere, growing more and more frantic. That evening, while the family watched TV, Max spotted the corner of his sketchbook sticking out from under the couch where Lucas was sitting.
Can I have my sketchbook back?
Max, stop bothering Lucas and sit down.
But he has it.
Enough, go to your room.
Furious and defeated, Max stormed upstairs. But as he passed the kitchen, he saw Mrs. Green's light on next door. Without thinking, he climbed out the attic window and scrambled down the side of the house, heading straight for her garden. Mrs. Green listened as Max poured out his frustrations. She didn't interrupt, letting him vent until he was out of breath.
Sounds like they don't appreciate you, sweetheart. But you're stronger than they think.
The next day, Max decided he wouldn't let the Petersons break him. He began subtly standing up for himself. When Emma tried to blame him for a missing hairbrush, Max calmly pointed out that he never went into her room. When Lucas teased him about his thrift store clothes,
At least I don't need to bully people to feel important.
but Max's biggest stand came when he overheard Martha and Greg talking about sending him back to the agency.
He's too much work.
We'll tell the social worker it's not a good fit.
That night, Max devised a plan. With Mrs. Green's help, he gathered evidence of how the Petersons treated him. Photos of his tiny attic room, recordings of Martha's harsh words, and even a video of Emma and Lucas mocking him. Mrs. Green also contacted the social worker, explaining Max's situation and vouching for his character. A week later, during a routine check-in, the social worker arrived unannounced. Martha and Greg were all smiles, pretending to be the perfect foster parents.
Max is such a joy.
But the social worker wasn't fooled. He pulled out the evidence Max and Mrs. Green had gathered. Martha's face turned pale and Greg's jaw dropped.
What is this?
This is proof that you've been neglecting and mistreating Max. Effective immediately, Max will be placed in a new home.
As the social worker escorted Max out, Emma and Lucas watched in stunned silence. For the first time, they realized their actions had consequences. Max's new placement was with Mrs. Green, who had decided to become his official guardian. For the first time in years, Max felt truly at home. But the story didn't end there. A few months later, the Petersons faced a community backlash after Max's story came to light. They were banned from fostering more children and had to confront the reality of their actions. Meanwhile, Max flourished under Mrs. Green's care. He entered an art competition and won first prize, using the prize money to start a project helping other foster kids express themselves through art. At the award ceremony, Max stood on stage holding his trophy. In the audience, Mrs. Green beamed with pride.
Sometimes, the family you choose is stronger than the one you're given.
And as the crowd erupted in applause, Max knew he had finally found his home.
If you like this video, then do subscribe to this channel.